In the heart of Anambra State, where the red earth meets the bustling streets of Awka, lived a man named Obinna. Obinna was a broken shell of a man. Years ago, a tragic fire at the Onitsha main market had claimed his entire family and his livelihood. Left with nothing, Obinna became a walking ghost. The villagers whispered that his chi, personal god, had abandoned him. When people asked him how he survived, Obinna would look at his empty, calloused hands and reply, "Who weaves the basket that holds poverty? That is the man I am looking for." Obinna scavenged for menial jobs, clearing gutters, carrying heavy bags of gari at the Eek market, just to afford a cup of water and a handful of roasted yam. But even the lowest jobs often rejected him. His clothes were mere rags. His spirit entirely defeated. One sweltering afternoon, while resting under the shade of a large udala tree, Obinna saw her. She was a madwoman wandering the dusty road. Her hair was matted into thick, dirt-caked locks, and her wrapper was torn and stained. She muttered incoherently to herself, clutching a dirty plastic bundle. But beneath the grime, Obinna noticed a profound, sorrowful beauty in her eyes. As she walked past, the market women hissed and threw pebbles to chase her away. Obinna's heart, usually numb, ached. He had nothing, but he knew what it meant to be treated like a stray dog. He walked over to her, ignoring the jeers of the crowd, and offered her his only meal for the day, a small wrap of abacha, African salad. The woman stopped, looked at him with wide, fearful eyes, and snatched the food. She ate ravenously. Obinna simply smiled, a genuine smile he hadn't felt in years, and walked away. The next morning, Obinna's luck inexplicably turned. A wealthy merchant from Nui needed a trusted foreman for his warehouse in Awka and, out of nowhere, pointed at Obinna. "You look like a man who understands the value of hard work," the merchant said. Obinna was given a generous advance. Instead of buying himself a feast, he bought a fresh loaf of bread, some hot akra, and a clean, colorful ankara wrapper. He searched the streets until he found the madwoman sleeping near an abandoned building site. He left the food and the cloth beside her. When she woke up and saw the gifts, she looked around, her eyes meeting Obinna's from across the street. She offered him a small, broken smile. From that day on, a mysterious pattern emerged. Every time Obinna cared for her, bringing her food, leaving her sandals, ensuring she had a safe place to sleep, his fortunes multiplied. He was promoted to manager. Soon he opened his own massive auto parts shop. Within 2 years, Obinna was a wealthy man, living in a beautiful mansion in a highbrow area of Awka. With wealth came the attention of high society women. Educated, polished, and beautiful ladies flocked to Obinna. For a brief period, pride clouded his judgment. He began to ignore his routine of visiting the madwoman, focusing instead on his new glamorous life. He courted sophisticated women, trying to find a wife. But almost immediately, his businesses began to crash. Shipments of his goods sank in the ocean. His trusted partners defrauded him. Within weeks, Obinna was on the verge of returning to the streets. Sitting in his quiet, empty mansion, he realized the truth. His wealth, his peace, and his sudden fortune were mystically tied to the outcast woman. But it was more than just the money. He realized he felt empty without seeing her. He missed her quiet presence, the way her eyes softened when he arrived. He didn't just need her for his wealth. He cared for her. Frantic, Obinna drove his last remaining car through the streets of Awka, searching the alleys and abandoned buildings. For 3 days and nights, he couldn't find her. Finally, on the evening of the 4th day, he found her huddled in a dark corner near the Namdi Azikiwe University gate, shivering and looking worse than before. Tears streamed down Obinna's face. He didn't care who was watching. He fell to his knees, pulled her into his arms, and held her tightly. "I am so sorry," he wept. "I lost myself. But I have found you, and I will never let you go." At the sound of his genuine broken confession, a violent shudder ran through the woman's body. The plastic bundle she always carried fell from her hands. She gasped for air, her eyes rolling back briefly before settling, clear, bright, and completely sane. She looked at Obinna, then at her dirty hands, and began to cry. "Where am I?" she whispered, her voice soft and melodious. "Who are you?" Obinna was stunned. "I am Obinna. You're safe now. Do you remember your name?" "Amara," she said, tears washing the dirt from her cheeks. "My name is Amara. I am from Nui." Long before she was a nameless wanderer under the Udala tree in Awka, Amara was the crown jewel of Nui. She was the only child of Chief Ozoemena, a legendary billionaire industrialist whose auto parts empire stretched from the bustling markets of Ngpor to the ports of Lagos. Chief Ozoemena was a man of great wisdom and wealth, but his heart had been heavy since the death of his first wife, Amara's mother. For years, Amara was his only solace. She was not just beautiful, she possessed a brilliant mind. Having graduated top of her class in business administration, she was being groomed to take over the Ozoemena group of companies. But a wealthy man rarely stays a widower in Igbo land. Pressed by his Umana kinsman to take a new wife to bear him a male heir, the chief married Ebera. On the surface, Lolo Ebera was the picture of a perfect traditional wife. Stunning, respectful, and deeply involved in the Catholic Women Organization. But behind her painted smiles lay a heart as dark as a starless night. Ebera had grown up in crippling poverty and was determined to never return to it. She wanted the Ozoemena Empire for herself, but there was one massive obstacle standing in her way. Amara. The true tragedy struck 3 years into the marriage. Chief Ozoemena, a man with the strength of a lion, suddenly fell ill. It started as a mild cough, but within weeks, his body withered away. The finest doctors from London and India were flown into the state, but none could diagnose the mysterious ailment that consumed him. He died on a rainy Tuesday, leaving the town of Nui in deep mourning. Lolo Ebera threw herself on the ground during the burial, crying the loudest, putting on a performance worthy of the finest Nollywood actress. A month after the grand burial, the family lawyer summoned the Umana and the immediate family for the reading of the will. Lolo Ebera sat with her back straight, a silk mourning shawl draped over her shoulders, her eyes gleaming with anticipated triumph. But the chief was no fool. The lawyer cleared his throat and read the final wishes of Chief Ozoemena. To Lolo Ebera, he left a generous monthly allowance, 2 luxury duplexes in Enugu, and a fleet of cars. But the controlling shares of the Ozoemena group of companies, the ancestral lands, and 80% of his liquid assets were left entirely to Amara. The chief's will explicitly stated, "To my daughter Amara, who has my heart and my head for business, I leave my legacy. May she lead our people with the kindness her mother taught her." The room erupted in murmurs. Lolo Ebera's face contorted, the mask of the grieving widow slipping to reveal the monster beneath. She had not spent 3 years serving an old man just to be placed on an allowance. That night, consumed by a rage hotter than a blacksmith's forge, Lolo Ebera packed a bag of money and a personal item belonging to Amara, a silver hair comb containing strands of her hair. Under the cover of darkness, she instructed her most loyal driver to take her to the deepest, most forbidden part of the Oviajana forest in Agulari. It was a place where ordinary men did not tread. Ebera sought out Akajiafor, a feared and exiled Dibia who communed with vengeful spirits. The Dibia sat inside a hut adorned with animal skulls and red cloth. He did not look up when Ebera entered. The widow who cries water in the day and spits blood at night, Akajiafor croaked, throwing his cowrie shells onto the dusty mat. "You want the crown that belongs to the princess." "I want her gone," Ebera hissed, dropping the bag of money and the silver comb at his feet. "Kill her." The Dibia shook his head, his eyes milky and blind. "The girl's chi, personal god, is too strong. She is protected by the pure spirit of her late mother. I cannot kill her. I can break her mind. I can strip her of her dignity so that the Umana will never let a madwoman rule them." "Do it," Ebera commanded without hesitation. Akajiafor began the dark incantations, mixing the strands of Amara's hair with grave dirt, bitter cola, and the blood of a black fowl. The smoke in the hut turned thick and green. As he tied the concoction into a small black leather talisman, he gave Ebera a chilling warning. The spirits of madness demand balance, the dibia rasped. This curse is bound by a lock and key. She will lose her mind, her wealth, and her name. She will wander the earth like a stray dog. But hear this, if a man who possesses absolutely nothing, no wealth, no status, no hope, looks at her in her madness and loves her purely, unconditionally, without knowing who she is, the curse will break. Lolo Ebera threw her head back and laughed, a wicked, echoing sound in the dark forest. A destitute man loving a filthy, raving madwoman? In this modern Nigeria, it is impossible. The curse is sealed forever. The next morning, the Ozoemena mansion awoke to a sound that froze the blood. Amara was standing in the courtyard, her clothes torn, tearing at her own hair and screaming at unseen demons. Her brilliant mind had fractured overnight. The Umana were horrified. Ebera, acting the part of the devastated stepmother, convinced the elders that it was a spiritual attack and that she needed to take Amara to a specialized traditional home, far away to avoid bringing shame to the family name. The elders, confused and scared, agreed. But Ebera did not take her to a healing home. She hired thugs to drive Amara to the neighboring city of Oka under the cover of night. They stripped her of her expensive jewelry, threw her out of the moving van into a dirty gutter near the Eek market, and drove off into the darkness. Lolo Ebera returned to Nui and took the throne. With Amara declared mentally unfit, Ebera seized control of the Ozoemena Empire. She thrived in her stolen wealth, confident that the impossible condition of the curse would never be met. Meanwhile, in the harsh, unforgiving streets of Oka, the beautiful, brilliant Amara became a nameless ghost. She ate from dustbins, slept in uncompleted buildings, and was chased by market women. She was forgotten by the world. But the gods are patient, and destiny has a sense of irony. Lolo Ebera forgot that in the same city of Oka, a fire had just destroyed the life of a hard-working man named Obinna, leaving him with absolutely nothing, preparing him unknowingly to be the key that would one day unlock the unbreakable curse. If you enjoy the story, like, share and subscribe to Nolly African Tales. Obinna and Amara drove to Nui. When Lolo Ebera saw Amara step out of Obinna's gleaming SUV, looking regal and completely sane, the shock was too much for her. The rules of the Agulari charm were absolute. Because the curse had been broken by pure love, the dark magic rebounded. Lolo Ebera let out a blood-curdling scream and ran into the streets, tearing at her own clothes, inheriting the very madness she had wished upon her stepdaughter. Amara reclaimed her father's empire, merging it with Obinna's businesses. They were married in the grandest traditional wedding Anambra State had ever seen, a testament to a love that defied the strongest of dark magics. A year later they welcomed a baby boy. But as the midwife handed the child to Obinna, he noticed something extraordinary. On the boy's right shoulder was a distinct birthmark, the exact shape of the Agulari Dibia's sacred staff. It was a sign from the ancestors. The boy was born with the sight, destined for a path that would either heal the remnants of dark magic in their lineage or plunge their family into a new supernatural battle. But that is a story for another day. If you enjoy the story, like, share and subscribe to Nolly African Tales.